Welcome to the pharmaphorum podcast. This is web editor Nicole Raleigh, and with me at McCormick Place in Chicago for ASCO 2025 is Becky Martin, Chief US Medical at Servier. Pleasure to speak with you today, Becky.
Hi, so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
So in the US, Servier is a privately held leader in oncology, dedicated to bringing the promise of tomorrow to the patients it serves. Launched by Servier Group, a unique global organization operating in more than 150 countries and governed by a non-profit foundation, Servier in the US has the resources and network of an established global pharmaceutical company while operating with the nimble and the entrepreneurial spirit of a biotech. So Becky, firstly, perhaps you could share an overview of Servier's key presentations at ASCO, particularly data from its Tibsovo or ivosidenib program in IDH-Mutated cancers, and those include cholangiocarcinoma, myelodysplastic syndromes, and chondrosarcoma, as well as the clinical implications for these patient populations.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for the question. We're really excited about the science that we're bringing to ASCO, and in fact, always very excited for our ASCO programs. And this year we have 3 different presentations regarding our trials in progress, all related to IDH inhibition. The first one, as you had mentioned, is in cholangiocarcinoma. And so that's a phase 1b/2 study, safety lead-in study, looking at dose expansion in this trial. And also this is for patients for first line. You probably are aware of the fact that our current indication is for second line. And this study is super exciting for us because it's leading us potentially into first line for cholangiocarcinoma patients. And for that patient population, anywhere between 10 to 20% of people who are diagnosed with CCA do have an IDH mutation, an IDH1 mutation. And so we're super excited about the clinical advances that could bring moving this product to first line. The second one, as you mentioned, is for chondrosarcoma. Now, chondrosarcoma has a larger population of patients that are diagnosed that have an IDH1 mutation, upwards of 38 to 40%. And so we're super excited to look at the mechanism of action of Tibsovo in this patient population. And this is actually a phase 3 study of Ivo versus placebo in the locally advanced metastatic IDH1 chondrosarcoma, who are previously either untreated or were treated with one systemic treatment. So again, a very rare type of cancer with a high unmet need. And then finally, our pyramid study, which we're super excited about, is a phase 3 study of Ivo or AZA monotherapy in patients with MDS. And again, this is about 3 to 5% of that population of MDS has an IDH1 mutation. Mm-hmm. And this is a super exciting trial for us. We do have the relapse refractory indication, but again, looking at an earlier line of therapy.
Thank you. And indeed, before we started recording today, Becky, you mentioned that there is a buzz of true potential this year at ASCO. Did you want to go into that any further as to how that sort of runs parallel with what you've been explaining Servier is presenting?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we've been hearing about targeted therapies for some time. And of course, IDH mutation is, and the treatment of that pathway is specifically a targeted therapy. And in addition, there are new targets that have been identified this year in solid tumors as well as in heme tumors. And one of the specific targeted pathways that I think is very exciting is for triple negative breast cancer. And, you know, they've been looking at BiTE therapy, which is antigen specific, and T-cell engagers to support finding better targets for triple negative breast cancer. And so I think this buzz at ASCO is really surrounding targeted therapies doing more, not just looking at targets within the gene, but also creating targets for antibodies or for the T cells to attack.
Absolutely. And it's interesting you brought up heme cancers as well, because someone earlier today was saying that ASCO originally was just sort of focused on solid tumours.
That's
so
right.
It's nice that it's broadening out. So coming back to Servier's work, what about Servier's innovations in glioma treatment with the Voranigo or Vorasidenib work that you're doing? So can you tell me more about its impact as the first and only, I believe, targeted therapy for grade 2 IDH mutant glioma and how it's redefining care in this rare brain cancer.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are super excited about vorasidenib. We launched vorasidenib for grade 2 low-grade gliomas in August of 2024. And so we're not yet a year in to a rare disease, and we have over somewhere around 3,400 patients that have benefited from this treatment. And I would say that, I think it's been well known that this is the first targeted therapy, and it's the first real therapy in 25 years for this patient population. A lot of the interactions I've had with solid tumor treating physicians here, and especially neuro-oncologists at ASCO, show that they are super energized to have a new tool in their armamentarium for this population.
Absolutely. So focusing on those patients, I want to now discuss with you Servier's broader commitment to identifying targets that will help find the right treatment for the right patient at the right time to improve outcomes for people living with these IDH-mutated cancers. In other words, let's discuss precision medicine, Becky.
Yes.
So tell us more.
Okay. So I think Servier has a real commitment to precision medicine, and whether it's in oncology or even in neurology, we are looking at targeted therapies across many different lines of therapy to make sure that every patient that has potentially a genetic mutation, even be it a rare genetic mutation, has a potential for some precision medicine. Recently, we've acquired molecules from Black Diamond looking at RAS-RAF mutations, and even more recently looking at our acquisition of a menin inhibitor from BioNovo, looking at NPM1 mutations. And so there are many rare driving mutations that are out there that can potentially help specific patient population. And Servier has shown over the last year specifically our dedication to finding more targeted therapies for more patients.
It's just wonderful. So I'm going to blend my final two questions. So I was going to ask you what next for Servier post ASCO, but I want you to hold that question in mind and sort of think about the most promising research potentially coming out of ASCO 2025. And for those listening to this podcast, please be aware we are only on the Saturday as I speak to Becky. But can you project what will be the most promising research that could perhaps change the oncological landscape in the next 2 to 3 years?
Oh, that's a great question. So I think when I think of things, I think of it in two separate buckets, solid and heme tumors. But I think what crosses both of those areas is that we are starting to see the types of targeted therapies that are potentially going to be the backbone for treating more patient populations with combination therapies. So I think what excites me in 2 to 3 years from now is that we can potentially find the right combinations in heme and solid tumors that can look at the sicker patients, the grade 4 low-grade glioma patients, and or those patients with, really high-grade AML, and potentially get closer to a cure for these patients. And if not a cure, then certainly give them many more years to live.
Exactly. Many more years, higher quality of life, if not a cure, at least that. Thank you very much, Becky. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, Nicole. Appreciate it.
And so that concludes another episode of the pharmaphorum podcast. You can find more information about this episode, including a download link and information about previous installments at pharmaphorum.com/podcasts. The pharmaphorum podcast is also available on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music, Podbean, and pretty much wherever you get your other podcasts. Just search for pharmaphorum and press subscribe. Of course, don't forget to visit our website itself, where you can sign up for daily and weekly news and analysis bulletins. And do follow us as well on X or Twitter and LinkedIn at pharmaphorum. That's all for now. Thank you for listening.